It's the biggest day of the season as the Sharks hope to get some fortune today.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker of The Reef. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And it is draft lottery day. I know myself included, we are all anxiously awaiting 3:30 p.m. Eastern time to find out the fate of the lottery ball. So we're going to discuss just a quick reminder on the draft rules, talk about what happens if the Sharks do win Macklin Celebrini, and why not all hope is lost if they happen to lose the draft lottery. So before we get into all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go, now free on Google Play or on the App Store. Game on. So this is why you lose all those games, right? Put yourself in the best possible position to win the draft lottery. So just want to do a quick reminder of the draft lottery, how it works, all that fun stuff, just in case you forgot. One nice clarification, whatever. So our old friends at Tankathon, of course, wonderful work that they do over there. Basically, here the Sharks have the best odds. You're going to see two percentages here. They have you'll see two percentages all over the place. 18.5%. And number one overall, 25.5%. So basically, all the teams who are not in the playoffs, so San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim, Columbus, Montreal, Arizona / Utah, Ottawa, Seattle, Calgary, New Jersey, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Minnesota, the Pittsburgh pick, Detroit, and St. Louis. All these teams can quote unquote win the lottery. Basically, they have a bunch of balls in there and they pull out four numbers, and every team is given some combinations of numbers that you could win. So the Sharks have the most combinations since they have 18.5%. Detroit and St. Louis have the least numbers combinations because they have a 0.5% chance. All these teams that I just mentioned can win the lottery, but only 11 teams. So San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim, Columbus, Montreal, Utah, Ottawa, Seattle, Calgary, New Jersey, and Buffalo. All these teams are the only teams who can actually win the number one spot. By rule, you can only move up 10 spots. So if Philly, Minnesota, the Pittsburgh pick, Detroit, and St. Louis, if those teams win the lottery, they will move up 10 spots from their spot. So if Philly won, they would move up to number 2. So what does that mean for the Sharks? Basically, so that's why the Sharks, they have 18.5% of the lottery balls or tickets or number combinations, but they also, if any of those teams 12 through 16 win the lottery, the Sharks get the first overall pick. So that's where that 25.5% comes in. If you take the 18.5 and then you add the Flyers, the Wild, the Penguins, the Red Wings, and the Blues, if you add their percentages together, that's where you get 25.5% chance. So the Sharks have a 25.5% chance of getting the number one overall pick. So just that's where that number comes from there. So there's plenty of options. If that happens, what will happen? They have a drawing for the first, and then they have a drawing for a second pick. So that's where the possibility of the Sharks dropping 2 spots. So there's a chance that a team jumps the Sharks, and there's another chance that another team kind of wins the second lottery and moves up. So that's where you there's two separate lotteries, and that's where the Sharks could potentially, so they can either be the first pick in the draft, second pick in the draft, or the third pick. They can't fall any further than that. So yes, that's basically how the lottery works. As again, just a kind of a reminder of the odds for each. So the Sharks, again, 18.5% chance to win the lottery, 25.5% chance to get first overall, just because, again, if any of those teams 12 through 16 win it, the Sharks get the Sharks win the lottery because they can't move up into the first spot. Chicago is a 13.5% chance to win it. Anaheim 11.5, Columbus 9.5, Montreal 8.5, Utah 7.5, Ottawa 6.5, Seattle 6%, Calgary 5%, New Jersey 3.5%, and Buffalo 3%. And I know what you're already asking. They also instituted a rule that says teams can't win the lottery can't move up more than twice in 5 years. So they just implemented this rule. So no teams are ineligible to move up. If Chicago wins the lottery this year, moves up, then they will be ineligible because they moved up last year, and then they would move up again this year to win the lottery, and that would knock them out for the next 5 seasons. So another thing to keep in mind, right, because we have been doing a lot of work with this potential Penguins pick. If the Penguins, who do have a 1.5% chance to move up in the lottery, they do move up, they would move up to the 4th spot, right? You can move up 10 spots. They would put them up into the 4th spot. And then the Penguins would have 72 hours to decide, do they want to keep their pick, or do they want to turn it into a 20? Because remember, they owe the Sharks a first-round pick because of the Erik Karlsson trade. So if they do move up, they have 72 hours where they can decide, we'll keep the pick this year, and then the 2025 first-round pick becomes an unprotected pick. And I know there's a lot of Sharks fans out there who are rooting for that, for the hope of getting 2 unprotected first-round picks in the 2025 draft via Vegas and from Pittsburgh. But then we got to play this game again of waiting for to see kind of rooting against the Penguins. So we're already going to be rooting really hard against Vegas next year. So, or Pittsburgh could just say, screw it, we'll just give you guys the 4th overall pick. Have fun. And then that would be a really fun conversation if the Sharks end up with the first pick and the 4th overall pick in the draft. That would be an insane. We would be having, we'd be popping champagne bottles if they decide to keep, or to let the Sharks have that pick. Cause then you're talking, you're talking a really fun draft. So, we're going to be discussing what the Sharks should do, what would happen if they win the lottery. Then we're going to be looking at what happens if they lose the lottery. We're going to look at Bob McKenzie's top 15 here and kind of digging through some of that. So we'll talk about what Celebrini would mean to San Jose here in just 1 minute. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play, delay of game, puck over glass. We already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you can work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting your friends, but you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with unique, constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton, including mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. There's always new and timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win, or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on Apple Play or the App Store. Game on. All right. So what would Macklin Celebrini mean to San Jose? And I think you are looking at a potential, you're looking at a massive franchise changing piece for the Sharks, right? The Sharks have done well. If you go back to kind of how they built up their previous, you got the number 2 overall pick, you got Patrick Marleau. You traded for Joe Thornton, who was the number 1 pick in that draft, right? And then you added a lot of pieces to free agency. You drafted really well, getting guys like Joe Pavelski late, adding Logan Couture, who was a first overall pick. But right, you saw how that team was built through a lot of drafting well, making sure trades, smart free agent signings. Well, we're back at square one, right? And you're trying to find your next Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau. You feel like Will Smith, who's coming off one of the best freshman seasons we've ever seen. You'd be pairing him with a guy who just won the Hobey Baker as a 17-year-old freshman, putting up, not as many points as Will Smith, but Boston University, not as star-studded, right? And I think Celebrini had to do a little bit more of kind of carrying the load compared to Will Smith. But you're getting a potential player who doesn't turn 18 till this summer, who's most likely going to be in the NHL next year as an 18-year-old player who's ready to play NHL games. Like, you're looking at a huge foundational piece, like a true 1C, game-changing 1C who can play good to great two-way hockey, which the Sharks have been searching for, right? I mean, Logan Couture is a great player. Tomas Hertl, great players. Celebrini's ceiling is higher than these guys. Like, you're looking at, a potential superstar type of player that the Sharks just need. They need players like this on their team. So this is, again, right, part of team building is putting yourself in a position to draft and then develop these players, and then you build around them. That's how the whole game works, right? You tear it down, put yourself in a position to draft these. The Sharks have done that, and now we're just seeing if the Sharks can kind of get a little luck. That's half of this game too, is just getting lucky with it, right? Whether it's you win a draft lottery, whether it's Cale Makar is there for you at 4, whatever it is, right? There's always those sliding door moments for these type of things, that when you kind of go back and look at how championship teams are built. And that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to build sustainable winning hockey here again in San Jose. We want to have another run of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of being good to great teams, and it's very hard to do. And again, we built it, burned it down. Now we're working, to add these pieces. And I think, though, adding Celebrini, though, gives you so much flexibility, and it'd be huge for Will Smith too, right? Because Will Smith, as great a season he has, there's still questions about playing his defensive zone. Is he going to be a center? Is he going to be a wing? It gives you flexibility with Will Smith, where if he doesn't quite fit at center, you don't have to make him a center. You can play him on the wing with Celebrini if you want. Or if they work, if they're both centers, that's awesome. You have a 1A and a 1B. And then you have a potential, if it's Edstrom or Bstead or whoever as your 3C, like, that is how you build, right? Building down the middle. We know how important the center position is in the NHL today, right? It is kind of the engine for the lines, and having dynamic two-way center as your 1C who can drive offense and shut down teams defensively. That sounds awesome to me. I know I'm very much defenses for nerds. But again, best way to play defense is not have to play defense. And if you do have to play defense, you have someone who's sick at it, sign me up for that. Because I think that is what Macklin Celebrini is his ceiling is. And and again, we've talked about before, but just this franchise needs some juice, right? It has been basically since COVID, right? This team is been a struggle to watch, right? And I know we had Eric Carlson last year, kind of doing Eric Carlson things on a team that ended up being the fourth worst team in the NHL. And that was really fun. But you kind of knew in the back of your mind, like, yeah, this was all great, but we're still a terrible team, right? Eric Carlson's 101 points isn't going to make this team, like there isn't much to build on here. Getting Celebrini to pair with Smith, you have William Eklund, you have Quentin Musty, who's had a amazing season, Kasper Haltnen, who I think is really coming on here in the playoffs. You have so many pieces, and I think again, Sharks are still going to be bad next year. They're still going to be in a prime position to draft, probably a top 5 pick in what's looking like a really awesome class next year. You're building this foundation to start being, kind of creating that sustainable winning. And I think Celebrini is going to be a huge, huge piece to that. And if the Sharks don't get Celebrini, there's still a lot of amazing players. As we're going to discuss next, and kind of talk about what would happen. What happens if the Sharks don't win it? Use this as an excuse to look at Bob McKenzie's latest top 15. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. And I know the Panthers, who are currently down 3-1 right now against the Boston Bruins. I still like the Panthers there. FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right. So what happens if the Sharks don't win the draft lottery, right? 25.5% chance that they do. Not a math guy, but that's 74.5% chance that the Sharks don't win the draft lottery, right? And we'll have plenty of fun conversations to talk about, especially if Utah or Chicago wins it. The tinfoil hat will be coming on. There'll be the conspiracy theories will be anyway. But the Sharks are still going to be in a great position to draft a really high quality player, right? And we see it all the time. Macklin Celebrini is projected to be the #1, and I think Macklin Celebrini will be will be the best player in this draft. But we see it all the time, right? We draft guys bust, guys don't live up to the potential, guys continue their progression faster than we expect. Like the Sharks will still be in a great chance to draft a high quality player. And Bob McKenzie, if you don't know who Bob McKenzie is, he is the Bob father. He is the guy when it comes to like mock drafts, when it comes to because what he does is he pulls NHL scouts and he kind of takes all of their information and puts it together because, again, he is Bob freaking McKenzie, so he can do that. So he put out his top 15 today. So this is, again, him talking to NHL scouts who work for NHL teams. So he talked to 10 NHL clubs, surveyed over the past week, and he put them all together, kind of had them rank their top 15. And the big thing that he kind of withdrew from this is it's after Celebrini, it's anybody's guess. So if there's a player that you really, really love, Zeke William, or, if you Sam Dickinson guy or whoever, Kaden Lindstrom guy, odds are maybe the Sharks board isn't going to match up with somebody else's board. And because this draft after 2 through 10 is just kind of chaotic because there's just so much variation, right? Last year we knew here's the top 3. They're probably going to go in. We thought they were going to go in one order, but we knew the top 3 was, right? And then 4 through 7, 4 through 8, you can kind of, okay, let's figure out these type of guys. Here, again, one team, a guy they might have at 3, on another team's board, he might be at 9, just because of how close everybody is in here. And I think that's what makes this such an intriguing and really fun draft because that's going to be the fun of it, is trying to kind of parse through and sort out who likes who, where, where does everyone kind of slot in when you start to put everyone's boards together. So let's go through and look at Bob McKenzie's board. So of course, Macklin Celebrini, 10 out of 10. He was the first overall pick. I would be shocked, to be honest. I would be shocked if Macklin Celebrini isn't the first overall pick in this year's draft, right? Again, what he did at college this year in college, just unprecedented. So Ivan Demidov is number 2. So interesting because, I think last year, right, we heard, there was with Michkov, so much of the like, where's he going to fit? Where's he going to slide? Him not talking to teams. There was a lot of like kind of that type of buzz with him, is like, is he just a jerk, right? Or he didn't want to talk to teams. There was that, right? You couldn't really interview him. I know there's still some of that kind of interview questions with that'll always be with kind of Russian players, but you don't really hear the same kind of like buzz with Demidov. So, he is looked at as the number 2 pick. I don't think we'll see the slide from him that we saw from Michkov, just because I think there's a little bit more of, okay, this guy just kind of, he plays in Russia. Okay, cool. So there's not as much of the like that. Anton Silyev, another Russian player, the 6'7" blue liner. He was number 2 at the midseason, did drop down to number 3. So, again, Russian GMs love themselves big defensemen. So Artem Levshinov, the Michigan State defenseman, who was our first prospect that we covered, right-handed shot. Again, another big Belarusian guy, but he's been played in Michigan State this year. Expected to probably go back. I would just say probably one more. Then you have Kaden Lindstrom, 6'3", 210-pound center from Michigan Hat. Intrigued to see, again, we talked about it recently with Daniel G about like if he doesn't get hurt, I wonder if we're talking about him as a potential like number 2, number 3 type of guy in this year's draft, like no question. Sam Dickinson, the right hand or the London Knights defenseman. You have Zane Perek, the offensive dynamo from Saginaw. Zeev Buium, who's ranked number 8. Again, the heart wants what the heart wants, and Zeev Buium is up there. Consta Helenius, number 9. So we have nice things. We've done profiles on all these guys so far. So Tej Iginla, number 10. So now we're starting to kind of get into potential Penguins pick territory. Berkeley Catton, number 11. It's under 6 foot, but man, that kid's good. Carter Yakimchuk, who we did a profile on last week. Another 6'3" right-handed defenseman in the WHL. Got a little bit of that snarl to him. Cole Eiserman, who just had a really nice U18s. But again, he was up in the top 5 at the mid-season ranks, but dropped to number 10. Still, a lot of questions about him, but again, kid can score. And then Beckett Senich, who we haven't profiled here yet on the podcast, at number 14, 6'2", offensive forward. Was number 19 at the mid, so he's really seen his kind of profile. And then Trevor Conley, who, spoiler, we're going to be talking about later this week. So he's uber talented, does have some question marks, and probably cost Team USA gold in the U18s with a terrible hit. So that's kind of rounds out your top 15 there. So I feel good because I've covered a lot of these guys so far. A couple guys. So Liam Greentree, who we've done a profile on, Michael Bransick Nygaard, who those are the kind of the 2 guys who I think I remember off the top of my head that we've done profiles on here, but aren't quite in the top 15, but still will probably be in the mix as well. So again, like, assuming if the Sharks don't win the lottery and assuming they get the Penguins pick, you're still going to be walking away with 2 like really skilled huge pieces for the Sharks rebuild. And if you want a defenseman this year, there's a ton of defensemen in this class. And if the Sharks don't get if they don't get first overall, I wouldn't be surprised if that is their pick, is whoever they think is the best defenseman in this class, because that is kind of what the Sharks need, right? And you get a defenseman with pick number 2, and then whatever the best forward is left at pick number 14, that there's plenty to be excited about there. So, so no matter what, like, take a deep breath. If they don't win it, we'll be here. We'll have plenty to discuss. We'll start to go through the wreckage of it. So we'll be back Tuesday. As soon as the draft lottery is done, I'll start recording so we can have a full reaction and talk about what's next for the Sharks. So again, make sure you have your lucky rabbit's foot, wear your lucky underwear, whatever you need to do that you think to help the ping pong balls and the Sharks, who, again, you deserve nice things, Sharks fans. Like, it's okay to have nice things. And I think getting Macklin Celebrini would be a really nice thing. So we'll be back to have to react to whatever the hockey guys decide to give us here. So make sure you guys are following wherever you get podcasts, and of course you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until tomorrow, good luck, friends.